Welcome to live action Star Wars mini episode. It's just me today, and I am going to be talking to you guys about the relatively recently released tabletop game Star Wars Jabba's Palace. It comes out by Z-Man Games, who's one of the subsidiaries of Asmodee, who pretty much put out every board game that you're going to be buying in sort of specialist hobby shops these days. Good publisher. They've got a good track record of putting out games. And Jabba's Palace is a re-implementation of the classic, if you play board games and tabletop games, love letter. So it's a simple 2-player and up. I think it's on the box. It says 2 to 6, but I think you could probably play with more than that if you wanted to game. And it is a re-implementation of love letter. So in the original, it's a royal court that the deck of cards goes through. So the deck of cards, the player cards are all characters. So you've got Boba Fett, C-3PO, Salacious Crumb, Jabba, so on and so forth. Everyone that you'd expect in Jabba's Palace around the time of Return of the Jedi. And in the original, it was kings, queens, chess piece type characters. So in this, we've got Jabba's Palace Star Wars theme on it. And it makes it a lot more fun and accessible to people like me. I don't give a crap about the royals. I see enough of them on TV. But it's Star Wars. I know it. I love it. And it's also a very simple to play game that is accessible to everyone. I was playing on Friday night with my girlfriend and a few other friends. Varying levels of Star Wars fandom. Everyone has seen it. Everyone knows Star Wars, but most people wouldn't be able to pull Salacious Crumb out their ass. The game comes nice, neat little bag. It's a relatively inexpensive game. I think in the UK on Amazon and most places it's about £16.99. So around $20 in the States, I would say. It's efficiency. I like an efficient of packaging when it comes to a game. This is something that isn't going to take up a lot of shelf space. And the deck of cards is, I think, 19 player cards, and then you've got various different sort of objectives that I can't remember what they describe them as in the book. And then your player reference cards, which most games these days come with a player reference card, but after the first sort of game or two, you won't need to have them there because you know how to play the game. With this, it's important, and the player cards do all have pips on the bottom corner, so you can see how many of each of them are in the deck. But I find having this reference card to hand and being able to go, okay, right, there are 2 guards, there's only 1 R2D2, there's 2 Bib Fortunas and 2 Boba Fett's. In a game like this that is all about deduction, it's very handy to be able to sort of do that as opposed to trying to do mental math while you're playing the game. That leads on to the actual gameplay itself. It is a deduction game. So at the start of the game, everyone is dealt 1 card, and then there's the deck of cards. 1 card is discarded, so you don't ever have perfect information. And then the goal of the game is to figure out what other people have, play better cards, and it's a case of you draw a card and then play one of your 2 cards that you have in your hand. Very simple to learn, very easy to pick up, and I think it's accessible to all ages. You could introduce this to a 6-7-year-old, and you could be playing it with a grandparent easily, and everyone. I don't think there's much of a distinct advantage once everyone has played a round or 2. With most deduction games, it's sort of about trickery and lying and things. I'm thinking of Werewolf and Mafia and games like that, social deduction games. This one, not so much. You're playing cards. Everything that you play is visible to the field. So when I've played a card, it lays there face up with the numbers in the corner, which are quite important, visible to all, so that everyone knows what cards are out there, what might be left in the deck, and what might be in other players' hands. That is the core of the game. Uh, at the start, you have these that trigger at the end of a round. So if you burn through all 19 cards in the hand and there are still players in the game, it's different objectives and what scores a point that round. So for Jabba's Court, it's the highest sum of, I think they're called palace cards. So the deck is split between rebels and the palace, and this one is the highest sum of palace cards in your play area. So cards that you've played, and then the sum of the numbers up in the top corner. So Boba Fett being a 5, quite high. It runs from 1 to 8. Jabba the Hutt being the 8 card, the highest card that you can have in the game. And then there are 4 different objectives, but most of the time we found it might increase as there's more players, but you don't often trigger these because there is also player elimination in this game. Player elimination is something that I generally don't enjoy in a tabletop game because if you eliminate someone, they are quite often just sort of sat there. So someone goes out early on in a round and then they're just sat there while the rest of the game is happening around them and they can't do anything about it. They can't interfere or interact with other people. It just gets a bit boring for them. With this game, the rounds are so quick, never more than 10, 15 minutes. That if that, that by the time someone's eliminated, someone else is out and then someone else is out, and you're back and you're playing again and you're in the game again. So player elimination in this is not a problem at all. It's quick and it's fun. At the end of each round, the winner, so that will either be the person left standing or the person who has triggered this, will receive one of the chips, these little plastic tokens that you get that honestly, everyone who I've played this game with has said these look delicious, and they do. They look like a little lozenge. Don't eat them though. Probably not very tasty, but they look it. Um, Again, just sort of high production value. It's not there's not a lot to this game. It's just a deck of cards, a little felt bag, and some plastic chips. But the production value on it all is very high. The artwork is it's all original art from I actually pulled the artist's name here. Jasmine Radow and Samuel R. Shimota. I probably butchered those names. And the designer of the game is an interesting one because it is a re-implementation of Love Letter. But this game is credited to Justin Kempion and Todd McClitish. Again, apologies butchering the names. But I don't know if one of them is credited for the sort of Star Wars re-implementation or which one or both just worked on this or worked on the original Love Letter. But yeah, great artwork. They're not stills. They are shots that you'd recognize of characters. So that is definitely a shot that we recognize of Boba Fett, but it is original artwork. It's not just a still from a movie, which I don't know. It always sort of feels cheap to me when I play a board game that has just stills from the show or whatever. This just gorgeous, really nice artwork. The card backs are all thematic as well. So the player deck has the droid at the start of Jabba's Palace, the agenda cards. It's the top of the Sarlacc pit, and then the player reference cards. Sorry, it's the top of the not the Sarlacc pit, the Rancor pit, and then the reference cards are the Sarlacc pit. With you can even see it's sort of from inside. You can see the skiff there with the thing, the drawbridge already extended for Luke to go and jump out. Great fun game. Really, really enjoyed it. It's quick, it's easy, it's fun. It's the sort of thing that if you're playing, having a board game night with some friends over, you could bust this out first, have a few rounds of this. It gets everyone in the mood and warmed up, having a bit of fun. Again, I got my butt kicked when we played a 4-player game for most rounds. So I think in a 4-player game, it's the first person to 6 chips, maybe 4 chips. And everyone else had 3. I didn't have any. I came back and I got a couple. And then I did end up losing, but that's not the point. It's the sort of game that you have fun playing, even if you don't win. Like we're all mostly competitive people, but none of us felt bad when someone else wins. There is an excellent card in here that is, I think, what I won with, and it's Han Solo's, but it's Han and Carbonite still, obviously. But if you win the round, if you've either eliminated other players or you've got to the end of the deck, whether you are the only winner or not, if you've got this in your hand, so you haven't played it, uh, you gain one victory token regardless. So if you win the round outright and you have that in your hand still, you can pick up two, which is a really nice sort of catch up mechanic. And it's a game that it's a card that you want to keep hold of if you have, but it's also useful in other ways. I've been yammering on for 11 minutes now, but there's a few of you in the chat, so let's just say hello and see if you guys have any questions. Um, it's your normal people. So good morning, Sarah. Good morning, Stevie. Good morning, Ralph is even in the chat. So I'm not alone here. Everyone else from the sort of the regular live action family is all around, which is great. You love to see it. Ed has even made an appearance because Ed loves games. And as soon I sent him a picture of this without explaining what it was just when me and Liz were playing when I first got it. And he was like, "Oh my god, is that Star Wars Love Letter?" So man knows his games just from a card design. It's pretty impressive. Stevie, yep, definitely check it out. I think you guys would have a lot of fun. It's not a deck builder, Ralph, so you don't need to worry about building decks. I'm the same. Like I enjoy deck builders when I play them, but I always need someone like Ed there to sort of like, I don't know, guide me through at least the first few times that I play one. I end up having fun with them when I do, but there is an intimidation factor because it's not in me to sit and build a deck of cards. This isn't that at all. It's a lot more um friendly. It's more sort of like a set collecting game. So you're playing cards, but your strategy might change rounds around because of what you have in your hand. And where it is only you have one in your hand, you draw one, you play one. It's quick. There's not a I play this and then it leads on to me playing this. There's nothing that deep about this game. It's very easy to pick up to play. Liz is here watching downstairs, and yeah, you guys will definitely love it. It's entry level and easy to pick up. Ed, now there are two of them. Yep, there are two. There's two of a few character cards. So all the rebels they are individual ones. So there's only one Luke, one R2, one 3PO. And there are two of most things apart from Jabba on the palace side of things. There's a lot of similarities between cards. So the number 5 card for let's go with the number ones, because that is an interesting little thing. So the number 1 cards for the palace side is the ability that you play when you play this card is choose another player and guess a number. If they have that number in their hand, they are out. So early on in the game, if you have this card in your hand and you play it, it's quite a stab in the dark. You don't know what other people have in their hand. The deck is still quite full. So you're just taking a random pot shot. I mean, it's fun. It's fun to do just because you're guessing numbers and you can look at the probabilities of what things are likely to be out there. Later on in the game, when quite a few cards have been played by everyone, it becomes really powerful because you can go, right, it is down to that card or that card that person has in their hand. You can math it out. On the flip side of that is the number 1 on the rebel side is C3PO, who has the same ability but with a twist, which is choose another player and guess a number. If they have that number in their hand, they are out. If they do not, they have a guess at you. So they can try and flip it back at you if you make a mistake. I don't know how thematic that is for C3PO. I guess it's just him sort of putting his foot in it, the fallibility of knowledge, possibly. I don't know. Or it could just be a case of they needed C3PO in there and they thought, this is a fun card, we want to do that. Ralph is a grandparent with a 6-year-old's grasp of card games. Fantastic. Yeah, great, perfect. That's exactly what you want to do. and it's very very good. It's quick, it's easy. Uh, it does look like Star Wars Candy Range. I mean, there's Star Wars Pez, so it's something like that. They look more like a lozenge when you've got a sore throat, which after yammering on for 15 minutes on my own non-stop, I think I might need. Um, so yeah, that is Star Wars Jabba's Palace. If anyone has any questions about this or wants me to talk about some other games, I'd be happy to do it. I do enjoy talking about games all the time. Um, I try and play as many as I can. There's an expansion for Star Wars Outer Rim, which came out a few years ago, coming later this year that I plan on picking up. So maybe before that expansion comes out, I'll play through because I need to play through it again. It's been a while since I have. I'll play through that and talk about it here. If you guys enjoyed this, if you didn't, let me know, and I'll just stick to books. But yeah, I love Star Wars games. I love playing games in general. Want to play more games. Games. Um, if you're interested in following us on social media and everything, the banner is running along the bottom there. It's Live Action SW pretty much everywhere. Instagram, Twitter. Follow Live Action Star Wars on and subscribe on YouTube. Follow us on your audio podcast catcher of choice. We're on all the good ones. And personally, I'm writing a bunch of stuff, more and more, hopefully some more Star Wars book reviews and stuff coming up. And that is at tinyletter.com/jhewlett. But yeah, I think that is going to do it for this little mini episode. This was in lieu of a data link episode because that is being pushed to Friday. So you only have to wait a couple of days and then we will be back and it'll be me and Ralph and fingers crossed a guest talking about something very cool, not live action, but kind of live action in the same way that this is. It should be a good fun show. And then we'll be back next week with the Attack of the Clones documentary that I picked, which is, I believe the title of it was the movies aren't released, they escape. It's Ben Burt focused, all about the sound and the audio of Attack of the Clones. So until Friday, don't give in to hate and celebrate the love. Punch it.